Hunting by Stars. Chapter 40. Begin Again. French and His Family. Mig, Isaac, and Nam took turns at the wheel. We drove south until the needle was below empty. Then we refilled the tank from a canister stashed in the toolbox in back, which we smashed open with a rock. We kept going, driving until the truck sputtered and slid to a stop at the side of a back road surrounded by fields gone wild, sunflowers and vines between jagged rows of dusty corn stalks. It was a different landscape than we were used to, more flat and open, more terrifying than the darkest woods. Raina said the South is better, fewer people, fewer vigilantes too. Slopper was obsessed with the idea of roving groups of dreamless militiants. I supposed it was a break from the monotony of the one enemy we had grown accustomed to all these years. I don't know. Nam kicked a rock into a ditch, and the high-pitched screams of bugs paused. Doesn't it kind of feel like they won? They chased us out of the country, for God's sake, and now we're down here. That isn't our border, Mig gestured north. That is an imaginary line drawn by politicians and land prospectors. The only thing we have to worry about is who the original people are so we can honor the lands we are on. And if we do that, remember to keep doing that. They don't win. They never win when we remember. We emptied the truck of supplies, then pushed it into a ditch and covered any parts that showed with handfuls of grass and overgrown crops. Eventually they'd blow off, and if anyone cared, they'd find the vehicle, but by then we would be gone. We crossed the first field and found a small thatch of trees. Here, Mig indicated a shallow curve in the ground under the boughs where a small pond had once been. Then he pulled out his bundle so we could make offerings and sing our lost ones on their way. We dug as best we could with no tools, enough to bury the hat and the medal. Mig ran his finger over the indentations on the front of the round charm before covering it. St. Roch's medal, patron saint of healing, he smiled, touching his fingers lightly to the wound at his side. We are here because of this woman, because of what she did for us. I am alive because she raised her voice for me even in the worst of times. That's what matters most, how you use your voice, and sometimes even your whole body, when things are at their worst. The hat, the twins, that was done without words, because there were no words elegant enough, no statements solid enough to hold the weight of their loss. We concentrated on just breathing, on just standing. We were loud, with breath and quiet. When we were done and we'd watered the holy ground with our small grief, we still had to keep it small. We walked on. Later, we would cry, we would scream, we would laugh and tell stories of the beautiful boys who had been with us for so long, but not nearly long enough. But for now, we walked. I wanted to talk to Rose, to hold her, to tell her exactly what she meant to me, but I had to talk to Mig first. I couldn't find words to begin to be with her again until I dealt with the burden I was carrying. Mig, you know, don't you, about how I got out of the school? It was a question, even though the answer was obvious. He paused for a moment. I do. Even though I knew he knew, hearing him say it hit me like a rock to the face. I also know you only did what you had to do to get to us, to keep us safe. His eyes hadn't moved from the path ahead, the rest of the smaller family walking in front of us. We were at a loss, always at a loss. But what if I could have done more, or less, I suppose? I was edging on panic again. It was always so close by. What if I had just stayed and found another way? Or even if I hadn't, what if I had just refused? How can I live with this, with what I did? It's too heavy. He slowed down to match my gait. All I could feel was Sonny's small hand in mine. All I could see was Sonny's eyes on me. Frenchie, weight is what holds you to the ground, to this ground. Otherwise, you might just blow away, and it can be unbearable unless you remember that our ancestors are there not just to pile onto the load you carry, but also to shoulder some of the weight. I concentrated on my breath, in and out, in and out. When should I tell the others the truth? It was barely a whisper, but he heard me. That's not for now. For now, we have to move. For now, you'll carry this alone. No one else can take that on right now. We've lost too much, and now we have a new life that needs all of our attention. He motioned with his lips to Wob and the baby. So for now, it's only yours. Maybe you need that weight right now, so you don't blow away. The sun was getting low in the expanse sky. Soon we'd have to stop, and we barely had enough supplies for another day. I'd heard what he was saying, and there was more pressing matters to worry about. Then I remembered something else. Mig, what was Minerva's last name? Why? Just thinking. Do you know it? Yes, she was an Elliot. I felt that knowledge in my spine, the understanding of it mapping out the contours of the very lattice that let me walk straight. I spoke the words on the napkin out loud. I am still Marguerite Elliott. I will always be Marguerite Elliott. Tell my mother that I am alive. She is an elder and needs help. What? Her daughter has to be. It's a message from Minerva's daughter. She's being held at the school. Once I said it out loud, I knew it as fact. It has to be her. Mig was quiet for a moment. He rubbed his chin, his eyes getting bright. Then he reached out and put a hand on my shoulder. Then we have one more reason to survive, one more responsibility to take care of. We need to get through this so we can help the others too, I said out loud. The ones I had to, the ones I brought in. Mig said nothing, but he kept his hand on me, so I knew it was still there. Even now that he knew everything, all of it, he was still there. I jogged ahead and caught up to Rose, who was walking with Nam. I wasn't sure if I could keep a secret from her, but I knew I couldn't stay away, not for another minute. Nam smiled and then split as soon as I fell in beside Rose, catching up to Slopper, who lit up a bit when they fell in step with him. Being so close to Rose was maddening, and we had to stop walking. She grabbed my hand and pulled me from the group, running just far enough away that we felt privacy. Rose, oh my God, Rose. It came out as a movement pushing me into her. She touched my hair, the line of my cheek, my lips, and then met me halfway. And oh, it was everything. I knew it. She pulled away and spoke into my neck, arms wrapped all the way around me. I friggin' knew there was no way you'd join them. Not you, not after Riri, not ever. She squeezed me tight and I couldn't breathe. I could barely stand. She took my face in her hands. They were shaking. French, I never gave up. They told me some bullshit story about you bringing in some people, but I knew it wasn't true. I knew they were wrong. I tried to respond. I tried to tell her that I knew she would never give up, that she was the very best of us, but there was too much in between the thought and the words. If I opened my mouth, I would scream. I almost stayed at the camp, she said, pulling her shoulders down and then back. I wondered if by camp she meant with Derek. But it wasn't home, and Nam, she turned a bit to indicate the slim figure walking with Slopper. They came with me. We followed the map Mig left and ran into an old guy who told us, you can't just talk to anyone out there. You never know who's real and who's not. I grabbed her arms as I spoke. The thought of her stumbling into JP or someone like him made me panic, even now with her safe in front of me. Geez, I know. She shrugged me off. God, like I'm new to this? How did you get across the border? Fear had given me use of my voice again, and I needed to know everything that had happened. Every moment that we were apart, no matter how horrible or heartbreaking. Did you come with Derek? Derek is not with me. She took a moment to make sure I was really seeing her. Derek was never really with me, French. But how'd you find us here, in that place? Found the network, and they had information about a captured group. I knew it was you. I just knew. So we made our way in. Then we had an opening, and we took it. And you, French, how did you get out of the school? So here we were, finally, and I held my truth of how much the program had gotten to me, the truth of sacrificing 2 people so I could make it home without stopping to save even the youngest of them, the truth of all the moments I had hesitated, waited on Mitch, hoping he would come with me, even when it put my family at risk. I held it all in the one long, shameful scroll, and then I started folding right there with Rose's hands on my cheeks, her smile exposing every tooth and crinkling up her dark eyes. I folded it over and over until it was tiny, until I could roll it down the insides of my ribs like a papier-mâché ball, one at a time, a bony staircase, and into the pocket below my heart, black and wet and empty till now. I had a secret. One day maybe I'd write it on a napkin, or I'd tell it at a fire, or maybe I'd expire with it there, soaking up my blood, swimming in my dreams, expanding it until made breathing impossible, and I dried in the pines like my brother, one shoe off, curled up like a fiddlehead. But I wouldn't speak it, not today. We had an opening and we took it. We, my brother, Mitch, he was with me. He isn't anymore. She squeezed both my hands and we stayed there a moment, just like small connection, and it was enough for now. We rejoined the group and walked on until we came to a grove of dead trees, all of them tumbled to the ground and in different stages of decay. It was at the top of a gradual hill, so we could see the messy patchwork of fields all around us. Farmland, and I can smell salt in the air. Must be getting close to the ocean, Cheeboy said, softly bouncing the baby on his shoulder. Mig shook his head. I think that's just wishful thinking. Not too much, you'll make her spit up, Wob called. Rose was helping her get cleaned up with supplies she had in her overstuffed backpack. She's speaking again, which was a good sign, though she couldn't take her eyes off the baby, not for a second. I got her, don't worry. Cheeboy could barely stop smiling. Even now, he couldn't stop marveling at the perfect beauty of his baby's face. I'll take first watch, I told him. You have your hands full. I touched the back of my hand to the sleeping baby's face. She was warm and was breathing, and that was enough for now. I walked the perimeter of the hill while the others tried their best to set up a camp for the night. Some of the wood was dry enough for a small fire. We didn't have much hope of a hunt, so when Nam pulled a packet of dry noodles and a full bottle of water from their bag, everyone cheered. I watched Rose as I walked, too far to hear her, memorizing every move she made as she spoke. She talked with her hands a lot. I'd never noticed before now. In the distance, I could see roads still smooth enough for vehicles to take, the moving lines of herd animals traveling, the furry dots of tree clusters, and a real forest or two, and a curious collection of decayed construction lifting above them. It took me a minute, but then I remembered why it looked familiar. It was an amusement park. There used to be places where people paid and lined up for the chance to be scared by dangerous rides and make themselves nauseated by spinning mechanics. I laughed. Oh man, what a weird place this used to be. Eventually, the sky started to fill with stars, so many at once like it was the earth had moved closer to them, as if we had walked into the sky. I sat on the side of a hill and tried to count them. The distraction didn't last. I started worrying about our food supply, about the bullets we may or may not have left, about the direction we were headed and what would be waiting there for us. The wind kicked up, and I wrapped my arms around myself, holding everything in, keeping everything out. A star pulled itself from the others and arced across the sky like a gesture of direction. And I was brought back here to the place where this is what mattered, the people up the hill, the truth locked under my ribs, the very stars shifting and holding still at the same time. I was warm and I was breathing, and that was enough for now.